everyone. Hope you're well. I asked a question on my Facebook wall last night about what mental health means to you. I got such an amazing array of responses, complete honesty from people, and some interesting ideas of how to move things forward as well. But I wanted to sort of share my side of it. Everyone has been so generous, and I wanted to share my experiences. And I suffer on and off with depression. I've had counselling, antidepressants, and depression is one label, but actually it's very different for different people. And I'm quite lucky in that my depression is reactionary. So when bad things happen in my life, or I perceive bad things happen in my life, then I can become depressed as a result of that. And so actually, majority of the time, I'm not depressed, but I react with depression. I hope that makes sense. Whereas some people, they have depression 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for years and years and years, maybe even their entire lifetime. So I kind of wanted to highlight that when we say depression, that doesn't mean that we all suffer from it in the same ways. In the same vein, the same treatment won't help every single person. I've had counselling and cognitive behavioural therapy, and whilst it's been good to have that person to talk to, for me, my reaction was actually perfectly normal. I'm not going to go into the details of what made me depressed, but actually what was happening on the occasions that I've had it, most people would feel that way. So it's a natural response, and those of us that are susceptible to depression, it would be the way people would respond to it. Obviously, not everyone suffers from depression. I think we've all felt sad and we've all felt down, but depression obviously is different. Depression is that feeling of helplessness and that there's no way forward, and I felt that way from time to time. But like I said, mine is reactionary to something horrible that has happened. So it's very different to, say, a manic depressive or chronic depression. And for me, CBT didn't help purely because actually I'm quite self-aware, and so I know what my behaviour is doing, I know my thought process, and I know it's completely unhelpful. But until that situation has eased, or until I've learned to deal with that situation, then I can't come out of the depression. So the talking helps because it's someone to bounce ideas off, but actually for me it was a process that I had to go through in the same way people go through grief processes. For me, something horrible happened, I got depressed, I had to go through that process. So for other people, cognitive behavioural therapy works really well because it looks at the antecedent, which is basically what is the thought and the feeling behind it, and it looks at what feeling that makes. So you say, for example, you think that none of your friends like you anymore, so then you feel sad, you feel lonely, you feel isolated, and then a behaviour might be that you therefore isolate yourself even more, you withdraw, you may self-harm or turn to drugs, alcohol, whatever. And that's how CBT works. It's a step-by-step process looking at what the underlying feeling is, the thought, then the feeling, and then the behaviour. Like I say, I'm quite self-aware, so I knew what was going on there. So for me, CBT didn't actually... It did help because it forced me to look at it, but I only needed 1 or 2 sessions. Whereas for other people, they have ongoing sessions, and it massively helps because they hadn't seen that connection between the initial thought, and then the behaviour. And it can also be a good way of changing those thought processes. So you feel that, or you think something, and we all think in funny ways. I've done an NLP now, and I totally understand that our brain has a number of filters based on things we've been through. So if you were rejected by a group of friends when you were 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, however old, that has become a filter in your mind. So if your friend does something like doesn't invite you to something, even though they couldn't invite you, you don't know that, you just think they didn't invite you because of that filter that you've got in place from the past. You automatically jump to the conclusion that it's because they've abandoned you, they've rejected you, and I understand that now. So I think that different types of therapy work for different people. I'm trying to set up in my local area group and one-to-one mental health projects, which they're not specifically based on NLP, CBT. They're very much client-led, so it will be chatting to the individual, which is how I think mental health should be. That's my own personal experience with it. I've also had experience of loved ones who have mental health problems, and the main problem for me is that it seems to be very much one style fits everyone. You go to your doctors who'll refer you to either counselling, they'll give you medication, and that tends to be the route. It's meds and maybe counselling, usually a 6-month waiting list for counselling, therapy or whatever. So it's very reliant upon meds, but actually there's so many different types of antidepressant medication that it takes a while to get the right one. I've tried maybe 5, and some of them I got on better with than others, and that's because of the way that they're built up. But they don't test for that. They don't find out which one necessarily is going to work best for you. You just trial and error them. What I was reading yesterday was actually they've found that they can run a blood test, a simple finger prick blood test, to locate a protein in your blood, and that particular protein will help them to decide which type of antidepressants would work best for you. So they're targeting a little bit more, which is better. I'm not going to go into what types of antidepressants they are. If you want to look it up, you can do. And I don't mean the names. I don't mean like fluoxetine, metazapine, amitriptyline. I don't mean those. I mean because that's the pharmaceutical name for them. I mean the type of antidepressant, because they will all target different parts of the brain, so they will work in a different way. Anyway, that's a bit boring, but so yeah, I mean, my experience has been, this is the other thing about it, you have medication, but then you're on a waiting list for either counselling, therapy or whatever, but there's a 6-month waiting list. And for me, that in those 6 months, actually, I would find that I've probably got better by the time the counselling arrived, but by the time the first appointment had come along. So in that 6 months, I was kind of on my own, and I'm lucky that I have supportive family and friends who were around to stop me from doing anything stupid. Thoughts crossed my mind. I had my dog, who I always praise because he helped me overcome that feeling. He showed me that life was worth living and I needed to be here for him. But I was lucky I had that. But for other people, that 6-month waiting list can actually be the difference between life and death. And I know that sounds dramatic, but it's very true that, yes, you're given meds, but people don't necessarily always want to be on meds. Those meds don't necessarily work for the reasons I've just gone into. And so we're leaving people with nothing when they need it the most. And like I said, I've got loved ones who have suffered and have been very much left on their own. And even once they've had counselling or therapy, that hasn't really helped. It's opened a can of worms. It's forced them to revisit things from their past, but without providing them with any tools to then cope, when actually they were coping okay before, and then you rip open these old wounds and they don't know what to do after that. So I just think that we have to talk about mental health. We have to share our experiences. We have to say what works and what doesn't work, and different things will work for different people. Some people find group therapy really helpful because it's nice to know you're not alone. It's nice to be able to share your experiences and for them to be able to tell you what works for them, and you can try it out and you can share your own experiences. Some people don't like that. Some people don't like talking. Some people prefer the one-to-one and find that more helpful. But again, some people won't get on with counselling. Some people won't get on with CBT. Some people might need other things. Obviously, I now do NLP, which to me is incredibly powerful, and it is something that I think should be available. But this is all time that is taken, and we all know actually when it's mental health, times are our worst enemy, because the more time we have to think and wallow and be in that under that dark cloud and in that horrible dark place, it's harder to get out of. The longer you're in it, the harder it is to get out of it, and the longer you're left to deal with it on your own, the harder it is to get out of it. So I think we need a much more reactive service. We need more holistic in terms of not just meds. Meds are not just the answer. Meds can be great and they can help, but again, even with that, some meds can take 2 to 3 weeks to even start working. So what happens in that 2 to 3 weeks? You are again on your own, and this is why lives are lost. And it's a horrible thing that happens, and it's something that we do need to change. So I wanted to share my experience. I would love to hear from any of you with any ideas. I am passionate about making changes. It's something that I'm trying to do at a local level within my own town. If I can find a way that works, I would love to be able to influence policy in the future, but I need help with that because I need to hear from people. So share what you're willing to, what you're comfortable with. Reach out to me in private messenger if you are not comfortable. If you ever need to make a phone call and want to do it one-to-one, again, just let me know. And let's get it out there. Let's reduce that stigma. Let's make sure people are confident in talking about it, because once we start talking about it, changes can be made. But also when you start talking about it, you can tackle it. And I think it's disgusting that anyone should feel ashamed of a mental health issue, because you wouldn't be ashamed if you had a virus. You wouldn't be ashamed of that, would you? So why is it any different for mental health? And it shouldn't be. I'm campaigning for it not to be. So any support you can offer would be great. Thank you for watching. I know I've babbled on for quite a long time, but take care everyone and have a great day.